What is up, YouTube? This is going to be a tier list for the Milestone of Radiance regarding the ML5s that you can get from the Diamond chests. Now, I do want to point out that as you can see right here, it was clarified by Epic 7 that this will only be up to Successor Teu. So units like Witch of the Mirror Tenebria, ML Aria, Scales, and Baronka, as you can see on the bottom, will not be available. And obviously DN, Monarch, Yolha, and Nodos alike. Now, there's going to be a lot of context in this video, so I'll put some timestamps in the video so that you can easily jump to what you need. But if you're someone that is a completely new player, which I'm kind of making this tier list for, as I'll be starting a new account series starting on April 2nd, going over the complete new player experience and all the rewards that we're going to be getting. So buckle in, and if you guys do enjoy or if you find this helpful, drop a like, comment for the algorithm, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get right into it. Okay, so first of all, on a new account, you're going to get 3 free ML5s. And ML5s are the equivalent to like LD in Etheria or like a cosmic unit in Star Savior and whatnot, right? So they're very coveted heroes. And in this list at the very top, Genesis Ross is going to be free, is going to be one of the protagonists in Epic 7. So you're going to get him. You want to get him ASAP, as he will help you carry a lot of the PvP, whether it's in Arena or in Guild Wars. Okay. Now, you're going to get 2 free ML5 selectors from Moonlight Theater 1 and Moonlight Theater 2. It's very important that you make the correct decision, as this is going to be the anchors to your account. If you want to get into RTA as soon as possible or within a reasonable amount of time, like myself. So, Ruel of Light is going to be from Moonlight Theater 1, which you're going to want to pick up. Now, I do want to preface that there is a unit called Spectre Tenebria that you can see highlighted here under Situational Niche Picks. This unit, you do want to pick her early on so that she can carry your PvE and she can carry your Abyss. Okay, that is very important. So what you could do is you could use the character at max level, but you don't actually go through with the summon, because you could always just return her and then lock in the Ruel once you're done with Abyss and you're done with PvE content, you're cleared up to episode 6 and whatnot. Okay, TLDR, use Spectre Tenebria early game. Do not lock her, do not complete all her missions. Once you're done PvE and Abyss, lock in Rule of Light, which is what you can see here. Okay, the second one is going to be Death Dealer Ray. That is a no-brainer, so there's not much explanation needed for this. He is going to be very good as a debuffer and just tempo unit to deal with a lot of bruiser drafts and have like a really high HP or even evasion options. Okay, now looking at the next category will be the must-have units. Now, if you ever see these units come up in your Milestone of Radiance chest, as a new player, you will receive 1 in 3. So again, this is not applicable to the, existing players or veteran players. If you see any one of these units, you basically pick it right away. Okay, Bellion, Bellion is very strong because it's an anti-cleave unit that shuts down one artifact called Taga Hell Ancient Book in the game. Imperial Ilnav will be the 1 penetration resistant knight in the game. Also, some people may think of it as the best mitigation in the game at the moment. And Zio is going to be allowing you to have a counter to cleave players, as he's a unit that can take the first turn. Spirit Eye Celine is going to be very strong as well, as it can deal with a lot of the meta DPS units. For example, at the very forefront, Freerin. She is really one of the only core DPS that can actually fight versus Freerin in an extended match. Okay, Harseti is going to be also a no-brainer, right? If you're a new player, you're lacking units, you're lacking gear, you're going to want to have Harseti on your team so they can even the playing field. If people want to play fast into you, you can use the Harseti to cut away a lot of their gear, as she has a passive that basically restricts everyone's speed to be slower than her. Right, or at least 90%, apart from Zio, obviously. New Moon Luna also is going to be an amazing option for anti-cleave, Guild War, Arena in every single PvP mode, basically. Lone Crescent Bellona is also going to be very strong with the most recent changes to her overall kit. She has evasion. She's easy to build with destruction gear. You can easily use her. Sorry about the WhatsApp notification. And Maid Chloe will also be very strong as well, as Renak is going to be a unit that you'll be seeing very often. Right, it's going to be a new character that will be offered in the limited chest in the Milestone Radiance. So any fixed damage that comes through, you're going to want to have Maid Chloe available there to stop some of that coming in, like the Glorious Throne, like the 3F, like any chip damage from Uberius Tooth or Hecate, so on and so forth. And we'll talk about the good units as well in just a moment here. Okay, so under the good units, basically, if the options in must-have units do not pop up in your Milestone of Radiance, then you're going to want to go with any of these options that come up, right? Strays is going to be a heavy DPS nuker. Successor Teiyu also very strong if you have a opener that can just nuke units and 100%. The only unit that has a 100% defense break, ignore effect resistance strip. Lionheart Ceremia will be very good any units against any units rather that has any dual attacks or counters, because she has a passive that procs and it allows her to nuke people down. Last Rider Crown is going to be very strong if you have Crown of Glory, which I'm assuming most people will hopefully be able to get eventually, but he will also be kind of like a pseudo answer into strong units like Bellion, like Freerin that unfortunately are not available, and also like the aforementioned Harsetti and Lone Crescent Bologna. Fallen Cecilia, very similar to May Chloe, but Fallen Cecilia will be good to stop any of the fixed damage coming in, like I mentioned for May Chloe, Renak, 3F, Glorious Throne, Uberi's Tooth, etc. Dragon King Shroom will be very good because you're eventually going to naturally get Renak from the Milestone of Radiance chests, because it's a limited character and you'll have discrete hands, you'll have that really, really strong opener in Renak. So Dragon King Shroom becomes very, very strong in that regard, and it's going to be a very strong option for any stun, sleep, fear, some of these debuffs that restrict your movement. She basically instantly cleanses them right away and wakes up and pushes your whole team and gives you fixed damage with Cascade. So also a very good unit to have strictly for PvP. And Abyssal Euphine is going to also be a good unit for anti-cleave purposes and mitigation. Some people run her on damage, but most of the time now people are running her on straight up mitigation now with Aureus to just try to cut a lot of these, cleave options that rely on a lot of combat readiness boosting. And if you're someone that hasn't played E7 yet, or you're just starting, combat readiness boosting is basically when you are having a unit just connect to the next turn, to the next turn, to the next turn, to the next turn. So they kind of overwhelm you with tempo and with speed, and by basically just killing you without letting you take a turn, right? Abyssal Euphine is kind of there to stop that because any combat readiness gained will be automatically halved by 50%. So a very good unit to have, and also very easy to build. That's another thing why I have these units listed in good units. All the units below you can also go for as well. So in the moment where if you get the Milestone Radiance, all of these units on the top two rows don't show up, you can kind of consider from this row here. But the only reason why they're in a separate category is because these are very hard to build units. Bystander Huayang, I would argue, is one of the hardest units to gear if you do not have her max imprinted, which means you need 6 copies of her. Very hard, right? Extremely hard, but very, very good unit if you can make that break point. But a lot of even mid-game players struggle to do so, and still continue to do so. So that's why it's under hard to build, but good. 1, 2, 3, right? These 3 units and Tamalaluka, these 4 units are going to be hard to build but good as well because they rely on speed, and obviously when you're starting out you're not guaranteed to get good speed rolls, so that's why I kind of put them in this category. If you need a lot of speed and you don't have it, it's kind of a hard unit to use, right, for the most part. Laika, Eternal Wanderer Ludwig, Requiem Roana, and Silverblade Aaron, but they're very similar, right? They need really, really high damage thresholds. They need really good speed gear as well. You're looking at like really high average equipment score for these units, and it's just really difficult. And honestly, Requiem Roana, not so much of a high equipment score unit, but she is very niche, so she needs to have like a lot of effectiveness. So you're kind of rolling for gear that is just like attack and effectiveness for the most part. And when you're starting out, you're not really looking to spend your resources on pieces of gear like that. That's more so for like the mid to late game when you're trying to build out your roster and you're kind of rolling all the gear that you get. You're typically going to want to roll gear that can be applicable for multiple characters, not just a very specific one like the Requiem Roana, right? Now, under situational niche picks, these are units that you can go for. They're just, when I say niche, they're still playable, right? But the only issue is that it's, maybe like 1 in 20, 1 in 30, 1 in 50 games that you might pick this unit, just simply because of the fact that they're a little bit power crept, and in this current meta, they're just not very strong. I'll start out with a few here. So these are openers, right? Lone Payra, Conquer Lilius, openers, very obviously. Shu kind of has a fall off. Hand Guy also has a fall off in terms of being one of the primary cleansers back in the day, but there's just so many better options now, unfortunately, due to power creep. Solitaria also really only purpose is to shut down focus, so very niche. Aravi, and D Corvus really just used for Harseni matchups, so you could use them. But again, Dark Corvus needs Warfare set, so it's like it's really hard to utilize him because most new players are not going to be straight out farming Warfare set out the gate. They're going for speed, Destro gear, because a lot of the units are going to use those equipment sets. And Design a little bit, 8 Tywin, Dragon Brand Senya, and Twisted Eyelot on Kieran, I will give a little asterisk, maybe like an exception. He is a unit that is very good because he's very easy to build, and additionally, he's good into any evasion units because he does basically 15k fixed damage when he gets 100 Fighting Spirit, which basically takes maybe like 15 turns in total, or 10 to 15 turns from the enemy, right? So this could kind of be moved up to good units, but very niche pick, obviously. These two units, Elena and Calvo, are going to be cleave units. DJB is a little bit outdated. Operator Sigrid, unfortunately, even though she's my favorite character, I say she's just way too niche. And Sage Ball, niche, and Spectre Tenebria, like I mentioned in the very beginning, you're going to use her early game for PvE and Abyss, and then eventually she kind of falls off, right? Any of the characters that are under do not pick these. Don't pick them. If you see them, don't pick them. Like you pick anything else in 1, 2, 3, 4 tiers above before you go for these ones, right? Unless you want to go for like because they're like waifu or they're big zits or something. These are units that you just don't want to go for as they're just extremely power crept and just not very good. I think some people might push back on that, especially for some of the veteran players, like regarding RB. Oh, you want to go with like Triple Torrent RB, or Judge Kisei has fat tits, or like Jason Love, ML Ken. Right? Very cope, right? New players should not be looking at building these types of units. They're just not good of resources, right? When you're early game, resource management is very, very important. This is so important in the game because if you use your catalyst too early, that could delay you from building a unit by days, right? And you're not going to be getting a huge abundance of them either. So you want to be careful with who you invest in. And obviously, the ones that are not available are at the very bottom. So there's that. And that basically wraps us up with this tier list. I will be releasing some new videos as well in terms of tips and tricks for new players, like things that you want to pay attention to, some min-max efficiency guys. So if you are someone that's looking at starting E7 with this huge new era update from Smilegate from Epic 7, here you go. Hopefully you can use this. And if you have any questions about any particular ML5s, even if you're not a new player, comment below, join my Discord. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you guys might have. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.